Okay, let's kick this deep dive off with a few statements. Might raise an eyebrow or two. How about smoking should be allowed everywhere, even on planes?
Ooh, okay.
Or maybe children should leave school at 13. Higher education is a waste of time.
Wow.
And just one more. Everyone should work longer hours.
Right. Pretty strong stuff there.
Intense, right? But hold those thoughts. Seriously, those aren't our opinions.
Definitely not.
No. Instead, they're perfect examples to set the stage for what we're doing today, our mission, if you like, exploring the surprisingly rich, really diverse language we use to express disagreement.
Yeah.
This deep dive is basically your shortcut to leveling up your conversational English.
Yeah.
Especially in those tricky moments where you need to voice a different viewpoint, maybe politely, maybe firmly, sometimes really subtly.
Yeah.
We're going to unpack the nuances,
Absolutely.
so you can choose the right words, whatever the situation.
And it's fascinating, isn't it? Because it seems so simple just saying, I don't agree. But actually, there's this whole spectrum of language choices behind it.
Right.
Each phrase, it carries its own weight, its own implications, and it really affects the impact. So yeah, this deep dive should shine a light on those choices, give you a much wider toolkit than you might think you have.
Okay, let's get into it then. Unpack this. So imagine you're with a friend, right? And they're raving, wow, what a great film. But inside, you're sort of thinking, uh-oh. That was 2 hours I'm never getting back. How do you gently push back on that, without making them feel silly for loving it?
Yeah, good question. That's exactly where a phrase like, I don't think so, comes in handy.
Okay.
It's incredibly versatile. It's pretty neutral language, not too strong, not overly direct. You can use it almost anywhere.
Right.
Now, contrast that with just saying, I disagree.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, technically it's correct, but just flat out, I disagree, it can sound really blunt.
Like a door slam.
Exactly. Like a verbal stop sign. It might just shut down the conversation, which isn't always what you want. For something a little softer, maybe more indirect, you could even try, I have to disagree with you.
Have to.
Yeah, that little addition, it adds a layer of politeness, almost like you're, a bit reluctant to state your differing view.
I see. So I don't think so is kind of an invitation to maybe discuss it more, whereas I disagree can feel more like a final word.
Pretty much, yeah.
And if you really, really want to put some oomph behind it, you can add emphasis with adverbs, can't you? Like, I completely disagree with you.
Oh, absolutely.
Or I totally disagree with you. That leaves no doubt.
Precisely. Those adverbs just dial up the intensity, signal how strong your conviction is.
Got it. Okay, so we've covered the sort of direct no, but what if someone's mostly right, but like not completely? Say they're giving travel advice, like, don't forget to check the visa regulations. You need a visa in advance.
Right.
But you happen to know the rules just changed, or maybe it only applies to certain passports. How do you correct that without sounding like a know-it-all?
Okay. This is where phrases like not necessarily, not quite, and not exactly are incredibly useful.
Okay, why those?
Well, a couple of reasons. First, what's great is their flexibility. You don't need an auxiliary verb, so you don't have to worry about matching the grammar the other person used, the tense, or anything. They just work.
Simpler.
Much simpler. They're like linguistic Swiss Army knives for this kind of situation. And second, crucially, they are neutral and polite ways to challenge something.
Polite, okay.
Yeah, they subtly suggest the other person isn't, totally wrong, just that there might be a nuance, maybe an exception they've missed.
Right.
It's a really strategic move. You correct them without direct confrontation, kind of preserving their face, as linguists say, while still adding the accurate info.
So it shifts the focus from just right versus wrong to something more nuanced. That's really useful. It's about keeping things smooth socially while still being accurate.
Exactly. Maintaining that social grace.
Okay. Now, sometimes you want to disagree, but maybe you're not like 100% certain about your own idea, or you just really want to be extra gentle about it.
Sure.
Imagine a friend holding up, say, 2 shirts. What should I get? The red ones, right? I think they look much nicer. But you secretly think the blue ones are way better. How do you offer that opinion softly?
Right. In those spots, phrases like, I'm not so sure, or perhaps I wouldn't say so, are perfect. I'm not so sure.
Yeah.
See, they automatically express a bit of uncertainty, which really softens a disagreement.
Okay.
You're still giving your opinion, absolutely, but it's done with a gentler touch. It leaves the door open for more discussion, doesn't put anyone on the defensive. Like, I'm not so sure. I think the blue ones might suit you better. Or if they said, these are definitely too dressy, you could say, oh, I wouldn't say so. I think you could easily wear them with jeans.
So it's like politely suggesting another path instead of just blocking the one they suggested. Smart. Okay, all right, now let's flip it. What about when subtlety just isn't the goal? When you really need to make your point crystal clear, no room for doubt. Let's say someone confidently states Sydney is the capital of Australia.
The classic. Well, in that situation, you might just hear, you're wrong, it's Canberra.
Direct.
Very direct, or taking it up another notch in bluntness, maybe even, you don't know what you're talking about.
Ouch.
Exactly. These are basically verbal sledgehammers. They are extremely blunt, very direct. Now, you might use them super casually with close friends, maybe as a joke.
Maybe.
Or in a situation where clarity is absolutely paramount and, frankly, you don't care much about feelings. But in most other contexts, they carry a pretty high social cost.
Yeah, I bet.
They can easily come across as rude, show you're annoyed, maybe even upset. It's a very strong position, but yeah, be ready for potential fallout.
Oof, yeah, you don't know what you're talking about. That's quite a statement. I think I heard someone say that once, and it definitely killed the mood.
It tends to do that.
But speaking of strong feelings, what about when someone says something that just horrifies you? Like your friend puts on some music and gushes, love this tune, so good, and your genuine unfiltered reaction is just total musical agony.
Ah, yes, the gut reaction disagreement. A phrase like, are you serious? Definitely conveys that immediate strong feeling, though, again, it can easily sound rude.
Right.
Even stronger, almost expressing disbelief, and usually pretty informal. You might hear things like, are you crazy? Or maybe even, are you drunk?
Oh.
They clearly signal strong negative feelings, like you just can't believe what you're hearing.
Those definitely get the message across, that immediate visceral thing.
They do. But okay, what if you're in a situation with really strong opposing views, and you just need a way out, a diplomatic exit?
Yes, please.
This is where a phrase like different strokes for different folks comes into play.
Ah, the classic.
It's conversational, it's informal, and it basically means, hey, people have different tastes or opinions, and that's okay. But crucially, when you use it, you're not just stating disagreement, you're also signaling pretty clearly, I don't want to talk about this anymore.
It's a closer.
It's a polite way to shut down a debate that's going nowhere.
That's a great one. Puts a lid on things without a big fight. Okay, building on that idea, strong disagreement, but still aiming for politeness. Let's use an example.
Sure.
Someone says, you bought another Android phone. How come? I thought you were going to get an iPhone. And your response is firm because, you genuinely think your choice is better.
Right. In that scenario, you could say something like, I'd say the exact opposite.
Ooh, I like that.
It's great, isn't it? It expresses really strong disagreement very clearly, but it does it politely. You're directly stating your opposing view without being blunt.
Nice.
And then there's another excellent phrase for when you've kind of reached an impasse, right? Both sides have made their points.
Yeah, gridlock.
Exactly. You can say, we should just agree to disagree. Or, let's just agree to disagree. Maybe even phrase it as a question. Why don't we agree to disagree?
Okay.
This one also clearly says, look, we have different opinions and we're probably not going to convince each other, so let's just stop.
Like a verbal handshake to end the topic.
Precisely. A truce.
Perfect for those debates where nobody's going to budge an inch. Okay, shifting gears slightly. Let's talk about more formal situations.
Okay.
Imagine you're discussing, say, a new building project, and someone comments, yes, it's hideous, isn't it? But you actually quite like it. How do you disagree politely and formally in that context?
In a really formal setting, your best bet is probably, I beg to differ.
I beg to differ. Sounds quite proper.
It is. It's very polite, quite deferential, actually. And yeah, it's mostly used in more formal environments where it won't sound, stiff or out of place. It signals respect for their position, even as you're about to disagree.
Right. Now, what if you want to be extra polite? Maybe even in a less formal setting.
Sure.
Or what if you actually partly agree with them? But there's a key point where you diverge.
The partial agreement strategy. This is where the magic butt clause comes in. It becomes your best friend.
The classic, I hear you but move. Love it.
Yeah.
So like choosing furniture, maybe. I get what you're saying, but I think it's too big for our living room.
Exactly. Or maybe more direct about something you dislike. Okay, but the color is disgusting.
Yep.
These phrases like, I take your point, but, I see your point, but, I understand your point, but, even just, I get what you're saying, but, or a simple, okay, but. They're incredibly useful.
Why incredibly?
Because they show you've listened, you understand, you acknowledge the other person's perspective before you state your own different opinion.
Softens the blow.
Definitely. It makes your disagreement much easier for them to hear, much easier to accept. It maintains politeness, especially if you're correcting them or suggesting something different. It's a really effective technique.
Wow. Okay, we've really journeyed through an incredible range of ways to disagree, haven't we? From a simple, I don't think so, all the way to a formal, I beg to differ,
Yeah.
and like everything in between.
Yeah.
It just shows that even for something that seems so basic, disagreeing, there's this whole universe of language to pick from. And each choice has its own subtle effect.
Absolutely. And this really isn't just about knowing the vocabulary words, is it? It's a fundamental social skill.
Totally.
So we genuinely encourage you, try to actively recall some of these phrases. Try using them in your next conversations. Choosing the right way to disagree can honestly make a huge difference in your relationships, how you navigate different social scenes, professional settings.
Yeah, absolutely. So as you go about your day, maybe mull this over. How does the way we express disagreement, the phrases we choose, how does that maybe reflect deeper cultural values?
Interesting question.
Is it always about keeping the peace,
Yeah.
maintaining harmony at all costs? Or is it more about valuing individual opinions, critical thinking, even if it creates a little friction? What does choosing one phrase over another actually say about you and about the relationship you have with the person you're talking to? Something to think about.
Definitely food for thought.
We'll see you on the next Deep Dive.